Hello and welcome back. We have another video for you about carbohydrates and cats. My name is Amaya Espíndola and I am a cat and nutrition specialist, holistic vet, and I'm here today to talk about carbohydrates and how can they affect your cat's health. Stay tuned and don't miss it out. And just subscribe and follow us so you can get all the information every single time I record a video. Thank you for supporting us. Today we're going to talk about carbohydrates and cats. I know there are other videos where I describe how inefficient a cat can be with carbohydrates, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. First of all, we know cats are carnivores by nature. They are desert-dwelling animals that they concentrate urine to keep as much water as they can. They only they only obtain hydration and water from the prey that they catch, those rich, moist tissues from their prey, and not much from the environment. When we see this, we are just already thinking about, we should be. What about dry food? Dry food doesn't give that, and the cats don't have, not the capacity, but they are not keen to drinking water. That's why we need to buy fountains and need to make it fun in order for them to get them into drinking, or add some flavoring into the kibble also to make them drink. If we look at the physiology of a cat, we're going to find that cats are strict carnivores. And there is a lot of evidence to support that. The first one would be the lack of salivary amylase. And you may wonder, what is this and what does it have to do with carbohydrates? So salivary amylase is an enzyme present in other species such as ourselves. It's in the mouth, and as omnivores, we are told to chew our food, activate saliva in order to start breaking down the food before it enters the stomach or small intestines. And this is the reason why we begin digesting carbohydrates in the mouth, and then we continue the further process in the digestive tract. This is not possible for cats. The second point is that cats have a remarkably low amount of pancreatic amylase. Again, this suggests that cats are not well adapted to breaking down large amounts of carbohydrates in their diet. So now we can look at what happens in the liver. And this is another evidence that cats are strict carnivores. The first thing would be to compare it with omnivores so we can have a clear image on why cats have evolved in a different way. When food enters the system and the glucose enters the bloodstream, the liver is activated and says, what are we going to do with all this amount of glucose that suddenly went in? And what it does is activates the gluconeogenesis in order to lock the glucose into the liver cells, and then say how we can use them properly. If immediate sugar or blood glucose is needed in the blood, then he will release it again. Otherwise, it will store it as glycogen or fat if not used. Cats don't have the ability or efficiency to process large amounts of glucose coming all together after a meal. So they have like a deficient way of using this enzyme called gluconeogenesis. So they don't benefit from large amount of glucose. Instead, they develop something different. If, because of the brain and the tissues still need glucose to function and to obtain energy, they develop a different strategy, and it's called gluconeogenesis. The word itself will explain. It's building new glucose, and it's built mainly from amino acids. Amino acids are all those bits and pieces that build proteins. And again, we have a big indicator that cats need more protein than carbohydrates. So before we get into the strategies that pet food industry will try to sell in order for us to keep buying this high carbohydrate foods, I'm going to talk about some of the research that it's been done, which could help us understand things better. The first one would be they tried to feed cats a high starch meals and found out that they showed the lowest energy expenditure compared to when fed some high protein diets. And the second one is very interesting because this is where most the pet food industry will hold on to, which is the resistant starch. And yes, maybe you heard about resistant starch, or commonly known as soluble fiber as well. Okay, and it's beneficial in small amounts. Actually, the study will say that small amounts of resistant starch can be beneficial for the gut. It will help maintain an overall health in the gut, especially the large intestine, because it will start feeding the bacteria in the large intestine and producing some short-chain fatty acids, which are beneficial, healthy, and great. This is a really good discovery. But again, a small amount does not imply 30 or more % of the formulation. Usually is less than 5% and can also be replaced by animal fiber. In some cases, it depends. Okay, so there is no indication that having high carbohydrate diets are beneficial for cats. So at this point, I hope you're starting to ask questions about why are we talking so much about carbohydrates and not feeding our cats a more high protein diet? There are many reasons behind it, and also there is a lot of marketing scheme behind as well, and profit margins and some other things that not necessarily we have to discuss here right now. Here we are to help you to make an informed decision on what is best to feed your cat and try it. So when we look at the modern life of cats, us as vets are dealing with a very high epidemic of obesity in cats. Also a lot of low-grade inflammation processes. We see a lot of urinary issues, diabetes, obesity, also anxiety behaviors. We are looking at so many things that naturally a cat should not have. And I'm going to go with something much more subtle, such as my cat is addicted to this food, or doesn't like this change, or doesn't like this or the other. When we look at cats in the wild, they are actually very resourceful animals. And we are making them very fearful and neophobic and all these other tags that we want to use. But it's not exactly true. These are behaviors. They adapt to the environment that they have around. And if this is not enough, just think about that the microbiome that they have and yours, and you share this space, is also going to be shared. Microbiome, the bacteria between your cat and you, is going to be shared. So nutrition is important for every single person in the family and the environment that surrounded the cat. When this low-grade inflammation becomes chronic, then we are looking at a lot of patients with cancer. Diabetes too is also a very important as well, but pancreatitis as well. And we are normalizing all these diseases. At the same time, we are normalizing behaviors in cats. And instead of acknowledging that we are maybe doing something wrong with food, we decide to simply add additives such as substances such as tryptophan or alpha-casozepine, and they sell you another product to calm your cat, instead of looking at the root cause that possibly and maybe and for sure it's food. So now you may think, okay, so any protein is fine, so if I look for higher content in protein, that will be okay. But my vet is saying that high protein for cats may be dangerous for their kidneys. Yes, we hear all this because quality actually matters. It's not the same using an overly cooked protein or sourced from places or things that are not even meat instead of using high quality meats. It is different. Actually, cooking it will already reduce the nutritional content, and we need to add some things into it. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. You just need to think on what is the best for your cat. But not all cats are on the same level and they can eat the same food. And this is when we start to look at different alternatives. Of course, if your cat can go for raw, he will get really good quality proteins. But if cooked, you're still going to have a control on the ingredients, but still, you can add some of the things that are deficient. And it's important in cats and dogs. This is not about just boiling some chicken and feeding to your cat. You need to do a structural diet. And if you're going to kibble, make sure it's at least reducing starch. Because if you can't change your cat's diet, just at least look at the ingredients list. Try to figure it out because it's not always easy. But there is a lot of support on the internet and any other spaces. And also, I did a video about labels in some of this in this list that you'll find. Okay, but stay informed and make an informed decision because your cat is looking forward for this. Thank you. My name is Amaya Espíndola, and I've been here talking about carbohydrates in cats. I'm a cat specialist and nutrition specialist vet. See you next time.